Hi folks, this week we're going to veer away from the van a little bit and we're going to talk about some of the things we do while we're using the van. We have the van for camping, but when we're out there we're doing a lot of other things like kayaking and fishing, hiking, etc. One of the favorite things my wife and I really enjoy doing is kayak fishing, or just fishing in general. We got involved with that several times this past summer, now that we're back out on the road. So what I wanted to do is take advantage of the fact that it's snowing and freezing rain out today, and the fact that we're not fishing and we're not in the van, to talk about some of the fishing equipment that we use for some that might be interested in getting started in fishing or different types of fishing. So we use 3 different types of fishing equipment, or actually 4. We fly fish, we use bait casting equipment, we use spinning equipment, and we use spin casting equipment. I'm going to go into spin casting equipment on a different episode, or just because I feel spin cast equipment is highly underrated and underutilized, and honestly a little shunned and looked at like, oh, you're a beginner. I'm not going to get into that. We'll get into that in another video, but I think it could be used better. But what I wanted to cover in this video today is just some of the spinning equipment I use, and maybe that'll help you in some of the decisions you make going forward. So I don't use really expensive equipment. I've never really seen the need for that. I have my reels that I use are strictly Shimano, and I only use Shimano not because of anything outside of the fact that when spin fishing, when you're casting a spinning reel, typically you're opening up the bail, grabbing the line, casting your rod, and then closing it. To me, while that's efficient and that works great, that's a two-handed process, and I like to be as efficient as I can when I'm out fishing. And I like the Shimano equipment simply because it has these trigger releases. Let me see if I'll use the new Spirex one here. So it has these little triggers on it on the bail that when I bring this reel around, if I'm holding onto my rod and I bring this reel around, I can get my finger right on this trigger, which also grabs the line. And when I squeeze that trigger back, the bail is open and the line is now on my finger, and I'm ready to cast out and let my finger go straight and let the line go. And as soon as I start reeling, the bail is closed and I'm ready to start fishing. So that's basically 100% the reason I like Shimano reels, is because of that trigger. When I was a kid growing up, I really liked the spin fish, the spin cast with the buttons. But as we graduated and I went to different types of equipment, I chose Shimano because and every one of my Shimano reels, not to say you can't get a Shimano reel that does not have the trigger on it. They make very expensive reels, multiple bearings in the bail system for smooth operation, and they don't have a trigger on it. It's a two-hand. You open up the bail, grab the line with this finger, cast it out, start reeling, same thing. But personally, I just like that efficiency. In my particular arsenal, again, as I said, I don't use a lot of expensive equipment. I use very affordable equipment. So for years, I've been using, these are the FX and the FX100 Shimano Ultralight reels. I've used these for years. I'll put a quick picture or a little side video here, but I used this exclusively all day long on New Year's Eve day when I was fishing, kayak fishing with my son, and this is a great little reel to use. This reel costs you can pick it up for about $15. You can get them on eBay. I'm not 100% sure if these are typically the reel you'd find at a Walmart or something along those lines these days. And even if you can still get them, they're in the back. There's a dial in the back here that you dial for the drag and how much, how hard it's going to be for that line to come out when you have a big fish on. And that's a nice thing, but one of the problems with that is it's just more moving parts in here to have to deal with. These particular reels have, this one I think is a 4 something, let me look here, And the gear ratio on this reel, I don't have it, but usually these are in the 4 to 5 to 1 ratio. And what that means is for every one turn of the handle, this bail is going to spin 4 or 5 times, whatever that is. This particular reel, which is the new one that I just got this Christmas, this is the Spirex 1000. It's an ultralight reel from Shimano. It still has the trigger on here. It also has the double handle instead of like the typical spinning reel, a single handle, and it's actually a little heavier. But this is I think this is a 6 to 1, if memory serves, a 6 point something to 1. And what that means is, you know, every turn you see how fast that bail is spinning. So that's how many times, that's revolutions that's going to go for every one turn of my crank. Now, this particular reel, this is a little bit more expensive of a reel, but that's not to downgrade some of these lower price ones. So don't think you need to go out and spend a fortune on these reels. As long as these are taken care of, they're greased, they're clean, you've got good line on it. This is just fluorocarbon line on here. It's 4-pound test. It's fantastic. The thing casts a mile. I can take really light jigs and I can just cast them forever and then just finesse them along the bottom. This one, same thing. I'm going to put 4-pound test on it. The difference between this one and, you know, at $60, that's what this one costs. This is a $60 price point. This, you know, is, I'm going to call it under $20. And the difference between the two is this one, as I said, you've got your drag settings in the back. You have single handle. You can switch back and forth by taking the screw out here and flipping it around. And that's really the difference with that one and the gear ratio. This one is over 6 revolutions for every crank of the handle. So what that means is I'm going to be bringing my lure in much faster. That's all that number means. But the only other real things of this, the difference between the two, this one is the newer one is slightly heavier, the more expensive one. It's more of a steel construction. The drag is at the front of this. There's no dial in the back. There is a reverse. So right now, if I go forward, I can't. It stops. But underneath here, there is a switch that I can reverse reel. This one, again, it also switches back and forth, and it has a double handle. Now this is something new with spinning reels that I've never experienced before. I have it on my bait casters and I have it on my spin cast reels, but I never had the double handle on this one before. And I'm going to be curious to see how that goes. It has a really nice, I'm not sure how many ball bearings are in this one, but it has a very, very smooth run to it. I was looking at this one a second ago, but this is not this one. This one here is my other AX100. It's my backup, or not AX, FX100. I'm sorry, but you can see, you know, they kind of spin okay, and this one is freshly greased, but it certainly doesn't spin like that one. And that one just keeps on going. So those are some of the things you get with the different price points. And this particular one, I will line him up with you know, one of these ultralight rods, and I'll show you what the spines and the difference of the different 4 rods here. So this one here is this one and this one are both ultralight rods. One's just a little shorter than the other. And these are my 2 larger river rods, and I'll show you what the flex of those are. So those are my light, ultralight spinning gears, and again, light ones, the cheaper ones, under $20. And honestly, I've caught a ton of fish on these. I was catching fish on this one all day long on New Year's Eve in the cold weather in the kayak, and honestly, I had zero problem. I saw people fishing more expensive gear, more expensive rod, more expensive reel, and they caught nothing, and they were whipping lures all day long. And I was just hurling this thing out there as comfortable as can be, you know, grabbing my little trigger, casting him out, setting him, and I was bringing in some nice yellow perch. So my next one up is, and this is kind of my in-between in between reel. This is the AX200. So these are the FX100s ultralights. This is the AX200. This one I can put a little heavier line on it. I do see this one, I'm going to put 6 pound, like 6 to 8 pound test on this guy here. He's a somewhat middle of the road, but again, same trigger opening, same drag setting, dial setting in the back, has the switch on the back just like these guys do for reverse reeling and so forth. And this one again, 20 bucks, $25. That's what this reel is going to run you. Very cheap reel, and a ton of use. I've got a ton of use. I've had this reel for years, so for some that really know reels and their models and their dates and when they were manufactured, I may be dating myself here because a lot of my reels, and these weren't expensive reels, they have lasted forever, but the key is keeping them clean, popping the bail off of them, or the spool off of them, keeping them cleaned out, gunk free, greasing them regularly, etc., and your reels will last you forever. This guy here is my Syncopate 2X or 2000 FB. This is another Quickfire 2 Shimano released on the trigger, and this one is a little heavier. This one I'll generally put 10 pound test on. This is the one that I will put on my more stout river rod, which I'll show you that flex here in a second. And this is the one where, well, actually I'll use it on my smaller river rod as well. And it's a great reel. It's a great all-around reel for catching not only smaller fish. I've caught panfish with this, crappie with this, but I've also spent this summer on a smallmouth bass fishing trip, which we did not use the kayaks. We ended up not needing to at Little Pine State Park in Pennsylvania this year, and this was a great reel to be using in that creek. I was using little 3-inch jerk baits for those in different holes, and I was just slaying smallmouth bass all day long with this one. This is a great reel for that. But it can be used on either of my two river rods, as can this one. This is again the Quickfire 2. This is the AX200. So these two, I tend to use this as my spare anymore, and this guy is my go-to. Again, a little expensive. So these two here, this one's in the $30 range. This one's in the $60 range, about $59.95 I believe I paid for that one. This guy here is in the $20 to $30 range, and these two here are in the under $30 range. So those are the reels. Let's take a look at the different rods I have. Again, I have the two ultralights, and we'll go through the different spines on those. And what I mean by spine is when you shake it and they go, how soon does that wobble stop? The longer that wobble goes on, the more feel, the more bend you're going to get out of that rod when you catch a smaller fish. It's going to have better feel to it. The stiffer that rod is, you're going to have a little less feel, but you're also going to be able to haul bigger fish out of more tight situations. So let's take a look at what those spines are. So in my ultralight spinning gear, this one, this is a Shimano rod. I actually got this as part of a combo. This is a 5.6 foot rod that takes 1 to 4 pound test line. I actually used this one the New Year's Eve. I used this one. I was on the water kayak fishing all day long on New Year's Eve. Caught several nice yellow perch with this rod. If you look when I kind of give that one, you'll notice it just, I won't say it keeps on going. Notice how it levels out, and that's the shortness. It has a bit of a spine to it. So it's great for those smaller applications. It can put a really light lure on it, and it really has a nice feel to it. So here's another ugly stick ultralight rod. This one is a 6.6 foot rod. So where my last one was 5.5 feet, this one is 6.5 feet long. And notice the play in this one. Notice it just keeps on going. It has a lot of play on it. It has a lot of finesse, a lot of give to it. So that's going to have a nice feel to it, and it's a light rod. It's going to be able to be fished real well. I would pair this with any of my ultralight reels, the AX100s, or my new Spirex. This is probably what I'll put the new Spirex on. Now the one thing with this Shakespeare 7-foot Light Pro, it's an ugly stick. Now this one only takes 6 to 10 pound or 6 to 12 pound, where my stiffer 7-foot rod, it takes 6 to 14. So this is, you know, what I'll use for river fishing. You can kind of see it's got a lot of play in the rod there that just keeps playing out. I'm shaking it and I'm just letting it die out on its own. So this is something I'll use in the river or larger streams for smallmouth, maybe walleye. It has a good feel for walleye, and I've also caught some nice brown trout on this in the northern Delaware River. Now this is the Berkeley. Again, it's a 7-foot rod. This one's a little more stout of a rod though, and this one takes a 6 to 14 pound test. And I'm not going to put that there. This takes a 6 to 14 pound test line on it. I like it because it's a little lighter of a rod to hold all day. It is stiffer though, so if I do the same shake with this one, I'm shaking that the same as I was shaking the 7-foot Shakespeare a minute ago, and notice very little. So this one I'm going to, you know, usually have a 10 to 14 pound line on, and I'm looking for bigger fish on this particular rod. Okay, so I hope some of that helped you today. Again, I'm not an expert in fishing, but I have been fishing for quite a number of years. I feel like what I see today on the internet is a lot of these shootouts and a lot of folks talking about this equipment you have to have that is just ultra expensive, even all the way to the kayaks, which we'll get into in another episode. Our kayaks are $400 a piece, and I've taken them in saltwater, I've taken them in freshwater. Nothing against a sit-on-top kayak. We plan on getting a sit-on-top kayak, but I have a feeling, it's my feeling that the sit-in kayaks and the lighter kayaks, they, again, much like this lower cost fishing gear, I feel like they just get overlooked. You know, in today's world, everybody's got to have the biggest, best, most expensive equipment, and honestly, I just don't know that that's always the need. I've been catching fish on this equipment for a long time, and it didn't cost me a whole ton of money. So that's what I have on my spin fishing equipment today. Again, my biggest reason for going to Shimano entirely is the trigger release. I know it can be a point of failure for people, but quite honestly, it's a help. A, it's efficient. B, for somebody that you're just maybe getting into spin fishing, it's one less thing they have to worry about because it's one less hand movement they have to do. It's a finger movement. Grab the trigger, the line is in your hand, and out it goes and reel, and you're going. But if that trigger breaks, because it is another point of failure, the bail still works, just like one of these. So if that trigger were to break on one of these, I could simply use the bail and it still works. So I hope today's video helped you out a little bit. If it did, smash that like button, leave a comment, tell me what kind of reels you like. Do you use Shimano? Have you ever used one of these, and what are your thoughts on them? I'd be interested to find out. And until next time, peace. We'll see you on down the road. Stay safe now.